Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have possibly one of the greatest rivalries of all time. This is the classic Formula 1 cars, the Niki Lauda Ferrari against the James Hunt McLaren. And we start with our first race at the Catalunya circuit. Turn 1 was chaotic. There was a bit of a bump between a couple of cars quite high up the order, and everybody took to the escape roads to try and avoid them. It was also rather hard to see. There was just a cloud of smoke and dust in front of the car starting further back. I could see bugger all. Coming into that first corner, and this being Forza 5 and the grid on random, I was at the back. Yeah, I could see nothing, and everybody did very well to avoid the stricken cars as we all filed through the first corners. Yeah, it was certainly an eventful start for the cars further back, and an eventful start for this particular Ferrari. Had started mid-pack and was proceeding to make his way up the order, going past two cars there on the exit of whatever corner number that might be, almost around the outside of the McLaren. It just got in front before they get to that very fast corner. These classic cars are pretty damn good to drive. They're very, very grippy, got excellent brakes. They're probably grippier. I'd say they're definitely grippier than the Indy Lights, as there's a little bit of bumping going on further back. There's some more overtaking. The Ferrari we're following is going all the way around the outside, trying to anyway, of, of another Ferrari. It was certainly a little bit more in favour of the Ferraris this event. There were a few McLarens on this one. It was certainly more Ferrari heavy as we run into the very fast, or the very nasty chicanes I should say, not particularly fast. The curbs on the inside would really mess these cars up. You saw in the background a McLaren had some problems. Yeah, these cars, not like the big curbs, they had some real issues. Another thing to think about with these vehicles, slipstream was massively effective on these. If you could tuck underneath the rear wing of the car in front, you could gain quite a lot of speed, as you can see here. For one of the Ferraris there, it's trying to go around the outside of turn 1, unlikely to get it done, but he came from a huge way back, just slipstreaming all the way up to the back of the cars. All of these vehicles are completely stock. There is no tuning on them. There are no upgrades. All of the vehicles are completely even. It's all down to driver skill as the car we're watching gets up the inside, heading into turn 3, and there's not very much the other Ferrari can do. It has a think, tries to keep it around the outside, but can't quite do it, hasn't quite got the grip. As I said, with equal cars, yeah, it's all about driving skill. It wasn't long before I caught up to this battling train of a McLaren. Ferrari ended up out pretty damn wide. I go up the inside of the McLaren through this next corner. The Ferrari in front, struggling a little bit, has a bit of a twitch on there, and again ends up a little bit out on the grass and can't quite get his car off. McLaren's having a look at the inside as we head in towards this final very tight chicane. It's very hard to overtake through here. Not very much you can do, especially when you can't attack the curbs in these cars. There's really not much you can do as we come onto the start-finish straight. Your best bet is to be neat and tidy through the chicanes, get a good run onto the straight and slipstream all the way down this very long straight. And then by the time you get to the first corner, you might be close enough to have a look. I had managed to make just a little bit of a gap back to the McLaren, and while he would close a bit under slipstream, it was not quite enough, and I could hold him off. And the McLaren was now preoccupied with with the other McLaren that was right behind him. And this was to be the battle for the lead of the McLarens at this point. The highest placed car, the highest placed McLaren, I believe, was in 5th. There was a little bit of contact as they went around, tried to go too wide through the fast chicane. You're never advisable going too wide through there. It doesn't always work. I'd had a bit of an off after an altercation with a curb. Curbs did not like me. Didn't like any of these cars, really. And I had dropped back behind what was now the 4th place and the highest of the McLarens. Coming through the final chicane, I wanted to get a good run onto the straight. I can't remember which way round it is. One of these cars has a higher top speed than the other, and I can't for the life of me remember which way round it was. But as we come onto the straight, I was tucked right under the rear wing, getting as much slipstream as I could, ducking out of the slipstream as we come towards turn 1. The McLaren tries to do the brave thing. If you can stay around the outside of turn 1, you will be on the inside for the next corner. You can sometimes retain the position. In this occasion, the McLaren just can't quite do it. However, as I go through turn 3, I just brush a curb. You can see how much it unsettles the car and slows me down enough for the McLaren to get back up the inside in towards the next corner. A late braking contest in which we were pretty even. I just end up out wide and there's nothing I can do. I think we either got very, very close or we may have bumped wheels through there. On the next corner, though, I was pretty good under brakes. For some reason, when I've raced at Catalunya the last few times, I've been pretty good under brakes into that particular corner. And sure enough, I can get up the inside of the McLaren, but in doing so, I really screw up my line through these next corners, get a very slow exit up the hill, just far enough ahead. But even then, I was still slightly out of position through this very fast corner, end up out wide, across the AstroTurf. Still on the inside, though, as we head up towards the hairpin, which is where you really want to be. Pretty tough going around the outside of the hairpin in cars with such equal levels of grip. The McLaren tries to cut back to the inside, but gets a bit too much on the curves, loses a bit of speed, and is not that fast into this next section. And I've just got a little bit of a gap back to this McLaren as we come into the tight, twisty section at the end of the lap, which all vanishes the minute I put a wheel over the curb. Get a very, very big slide. I managed to save it. I'm surprised I managed to save that. Yeah, got a very, very big slide on that one. And then we find ourselves in exactly the same situation as last lap, almost identically. I was just a little bit closer to the back of the McLaren this time, and as we have the drag race down the front straight, I can duck out of the slipstream coming in towards turn 1. And have got a big enough advantage. The McLaren is just that little bit too far back through these first corners, and eating the curb there probably doesn't help matters as I pull away coming through turn 3. Yeah, curbs and these cars do not mix very well, especially not the huge curbs here. At the front, it was to be a relatively quiet race for this Ferrari. Having made his way through the pack early on with some impressive overtakes, he would get to the front and scamper away from everybody, putting in considerably faster lap times than the rest of us. It was to be a successful race for the Ferraris, with a 1, 2, 3, 4 all Ferraris, while the McLarens will be 5, 6 and 7. Pretty dominant display from the Ferraris in this first race. Yeah, although it does help that I think quite a lot of the faster drivers had opted for Ferrari, so perhaps a little bit skewed results from this lobby. We move to race 2, which was at Laguna Seca, and the first corner here is always scary, whatever you're racing, as everybody tries to fit 3 cars wide, and sure enough it doesn't work. There was a little bit of bumping on the outside of the track, and then 3 cars tried to fit in the same piece of road behind me, and that certainly doesn't go. A couple of cars come to, I was just sort of getting past as people fell off the road. It's a way to overtake, well, it's a fairly simple way of overtaking, not the most exciting way of overtaking, but it's certainly a way to overtake. In front of McLaren, ended up out wide on the dirt, and we were all getting I thought about going 3 wide in there. I backed out of it and settled for trying to get up the inside of the Ferrari. Slightly missed the apex. It's yeah, all rather close, with plenty of cars being 2 wide on the run up the hill there. I don't think anybody actually overtook at the top of the hill, because that's a scary place to overtake, but there's plenty of people having a look. As we come up to the corkscrew, there's cars all over the place. Everybody had different... yeah, everybody was taking different lines through there. There's a McLaren that was very slow off the corkscrew, that allows 2 of the Ferraris behind him to get past, and then a couple of the cars at the front of Ferrari and McLaren have it coming together, and I suddenly find myself up into second. Yeah, cars fell off the road. I think I actually sort of legitimately overtook 1 car as a Ferrari has a big dive at the final corner and can't quite get it stopped. Glad I saw him coming there. I could sort of just let off a bit of the steering, let him go soaring up the inside. I could get away without any problems. Yeah, I think I actually sort of properly overtook 1 person in that entire thing, and everybody else just fell off the road. But I'm not going to complain too much. I mean, there's one way of doing things. I'm sorry to report for McLaren fans. Again, the McLarens were struggling a little bit, and these were the highest of the 2. The highest of the McLarens, sorry. The highest 2 of the McLarens. That's English. That made sense. Battling over, it was 5th and 6th again, I believe. One of the McLarens was very determined to go around the outside there. I would have cut back and been on the inside, rather than trying to go against the wall there, but fair enough, it worked, and he got the position. By the time he got to turn 1, he was far enough ahead. This was the battle for second. The leader was long gone, especially after all of the altercations we had been having on that opening lap. The leader was miles up the road. And I was defending for my life near enough. Wasn't helping with the occasional wheel on the dirt in my Ferrari car behind. Gets a very big slide coming out of the corkscrew. Of course, while we were fighting, the car in 4th place was catching up, and so it wasn't going to be long until it was going to be a 3-way battle for second place coming to the final corner, and I've just got enough of a lead for the white and orange car not to be able to try anything. But I get a very, very poor exit out of the final turn. Had a little bit of, I think I had a wheel on the curb, was struggling for a bit of traction. And as we come across the sort of around the first corner sort of hill, that's a horrible, normally you don't think about it, it's a really nasty corner on this game. I keep my car on the inside, managed to retain my second place. The Ferrari in fourth, yes, I know positions, is now right in this train as we go through these first corners. I'm a bit too wide through here. I just slightly brake a little bit too late. I know I'm in a little bit of trouble. The white and orange car is trying to go around the outside. The other Ferrari's on the inside. We go 3 wide into the corner. Everything was looking like it was going to end up okay until somebody put a wheel on the curb. I end up spinning back across the track and stall my car. I can't get it started up this hill. Luckily, everybody saw me. Yeah, it was just one of those things. I got a tiny nudge from the white and orange car. That was fine, and I managed to get myself back to the inside. And it looked like I would retain my position being on the inside up the hill, but the car on the outside just had a wheel on the curb, and as he went to put some power down, it flung his car sideways, and they got straight into the side of me. Just can't do anything really massively about that. It's just one of those racing incidents that do happen. After that accident had reshuffled the field, I think the white and orange car had suffered some damage. I'm not sure quite what to. There's no telemetry in Forza 5 replays, which is really helpful. However, he was certainly struggling for pace. Yeah, just didn't seem to have anywhere near as much speed as this Ferrari. Goes around the inside of one corner and then sticks it around the outside of the next, and the white and orange car just can do absolutely nothing about it. I would imagine aero, perhaps suspension damage on that car, following a very slight bump on the back of my vehicle. Further back, there had been at some point, I didn't quite see when it was, some form of accident that had caused quite a few cars to head to the pits, this Mclaren being one of them. They were getting out of the way of the leader there that was lapping them, I believe. However, they found themselves their own little battle to have between one of the McLarens and one of the Ferraris as they come towards the final corner. Ferrari's having a look at the inside, but can't really do anything there. It's just a little bit too far back as they run onto the start-finish line. Again, as I said, slipstreaming was quite effective, so you could make up quite a bit of ground. You can see the Ferraris closed in as they go across sort of turn 1. I'm not sure if you call that turn 1 or a kink in the straight. I don't know. Either way, into this corner, the Ferrari is just a little bit too far back and ends up running wide, putting a wheel on the dirt. You don't want to be doing that in these cars. It really is quite terrifying. At the front, though, it was going to be victory number 2 for the Ferraris as they come into the final corner. Yeah, the leader had stayed at the front pretty much the entire time. I think he started right near the front on the grid. And while we all squabbled and crashed into each other over second place, he built up a rather huge lead. And then once the AI takes control of his car, goes for a little bit of rallycross. I don't know why the AIs do that. In second place, there was a Mclaren. He had survived all the carnage and worked his way up to second. However, me and another Ferrari were catching him rather rapidly on the final lap, and as he runs a bit wide through these next corners, the Ferrari in third has a dive. Good overtake from the Ferrari there. That's quite a tough place to get a pass done. The McLaren's on the inside, though, tries to get back at the Ferrari, just can't quite get it stopped. And in the end, I managed to sneak past as well, move up to third. And the McLaren they're going to get their best finish of the evening so far in fourth. But yeah, we got him on the line. It was a pretty eventful race here at Laguna Seca, and the AI wanted to take the Formula 1 cars rally crossing. Our third and final race went to the Spa circuit. 3 cars stalled off the line directly, well, not directly in front of me, but in front of me, giving me 3 easy positions. At this stage, a couple of people had left the lobby, and I think we were down to about 2 McLarens left in this final race. Most people had chosen to use the... Well, I think people had left using the McLarens, and a couple of people had changed to use the Ferrari. As we come to Eau Rouge for the first time, it is rather terrifying, Eau Rouge, in this car, especially when you're following about 3 vehicles and you cannot see a thing. It's just pure guesswork coming up that hill in just hoping that you're in the right place. I think I was a little bit wrong. A couple of cars in front of me were a bit wrong as well. As we come towards the corner at the end of this straight, I'm on the inside of these 2 cars, make up another couple of positions, and I think I'm right behind a McLaren at this stage. It was a rather long train coming down to this next corner. Pretty scary seeing all the Ferraris lining up behind you into this corner. And it was literally a train of Ferraris behind this McLaren. The leader had just pulled a little bit of a gap back to this train of vehicles. You don't want to run wide on that AstroTurf either. That's particularly sort of slowy downy AstroTurf, that one. Very nasty stuff. I have an accidental look at the inside of the McLaren after the McLaren brakes a bit earlier than I did. Didn't intend to have a look there. It just kind of happened. I got a pretty poor run out of that corner though. The Ferraris along the outside. McLaren again braked a little bit early. I wasn't expecting to overtake there, and it caught the car that was trying to go around the outside of me out a bit. In the end, the McLaren clips the grass and ends up getting fired off into the sand. Yeah, these carbs and curbs really don't mix. I don't know what it is. They just have some issues. Now, unfortunately, in this race, as I said, there were less people in this race. I think there was only about 11 to start with. There was also a huge laggy incident with when somebody was disconnecting, the AI took over their car and caused a big laggy crash further back, which meant quite a few vehicles had to pit and the field was somewhat spread out. This was the closest action going on at the early stages of the race between a couple of these Ferraris. Yeah, Eau Rouge, ignore the ghost car. That's the remnants of the laggy weirdness that went on. These cars up Eau Rouge are very scary. You can go flat out if you get the line right. If you get even slightly wrong, if you even slightly touch a curb, then you're going to have huge problems in these cars because they just don't have the downforce of some of the other vehicles. It's fun and scary all at the same time, pretty much. At the front, everything was spread out, basically, for most of this race. You could see there was just a line of cars. Like, we could all see the car in front and we could see the car behind, and nothing was really changing very quickly. I was very gradually catching up to the leader. I was slowly dropping third place, who was slowly dropping fourth, who was slowly dropping fifth. And, yeah, everybody was just kind of holding station. Yeah, not much went on for large parts of this race, partly down to the smaller number of people, and it certainly didn't help with the big laggy crash at the start, requiring quite a few cars to have to pit. By the final lap of the race, I had caught up to the leader, and this was about all of the overtaking and action that went on the most part of this race. Unfortunately, it was just, yeah, one of those things. The leader put a wheel on that rather nasty AstroTurf, and I was close. I was much closer than I had been in the previous laps, and as he hits a little bit too much of the grass through, I can never remember the name of that corner. Scary corner, that one as well. Lots of scary corners here at Spa. I was now right behind him, coming through these next section. I tried to get up the inside. There's a little bit of a twitch from the car in front. Give him a little bit of a bump, and in the end he was fighting for control and just runs out of road. I did the sportsman thing of waited for him, let him get his car back under control as we come through on towards the final straight. I had one overtaking opportunity left to me, which was into is it the bus stop chicane here? Is that what it's called? I can't remember. The final corner, basically, a very tight corner. That was where I was planning to do my move, follow through the slipstream and get the pass done into there. I did the silly thing and somehow managed to go around the outside of Blanchimont. I hadn't really intended that move until I saw he was really slow on the inside, and I got brave, basically, and went around the... Yeah, that was quite scary. That was pretty scary, especially when you're driving in cockpit view in these cars and you really cannot see very well where the vehicles are on your inside or your outside. I'm pretty pleased with that move, I'll be honest. One of my better overtakes that I've ever done. I also love how the AIs carry on with this little battle for the lead. I took my first victory with the Formula 1 cars at Spa. Yeah, it was a fun race driving. It was fun racing these cars, but not the most exciting of spectators sports, in that there was just not very much going on other than Formula 1 cars circling. As far as results go, well, the Ferraris were massively dominant here. They were all the cars on the podium in this session were all Ferraris. I think the highest place a McLaren ever got was fourth. I think they came fourth at Spa as well. Partly down to the fact that there were less McLarens in general. And I don't know. I prefer the Ferrari personally. over the course of a lap. I'm not actually 100% sure if there's much difference between them. I just prefer the way that the Ferrari drives more to the McLaren. So yeah, there we go. That was it for some classic F1 racing. I'm always a little bit nervous about racing the higher PI cars, the faster cars. You tend not to get quite as good racing. However, this proved to be pretty damn exciting. There was, as you saw at Spa, it was quite spread out. The other races, though, were pretty damn good. So I would say it was pretty successful. However, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.